like to discuss about the nature of language, actually. Yeah, that's the discussions that we would like to have actually a lot here. Aspects of language to exemplify the query of analytical tools method and the purpose of the current linguistic thinking. Research, critical reading, problem solving activities, academic writing, seminars, and so on, parts of the courses actually. But what is important is the objective. So this is the expectation that you can, what you call that, like achieve later on. So by the end of the semesters, then you are expected to understand the basic concepts of 6 areas of linguistic, which is pragmatics, semantics, syntax, morphology, phonetics, yeah, phonology, and the interactions between them. Also to understand the nature of language, yeah, and use it as a tool of to analyze aspects of the language. And later on, you can see actually how could I manage the evaluation, because mostly I would like to invite you to join with several discussion, group project, and also presentations then, yeah. Also, to the objective is to demonstrate and understand the language as a system science, yeah, a system of science and a means of communications in order to present their analysis in academic forums. Yeah, so by learning this one, you are expected later on to prepare what you are interested in for your final project, for your capstone project, or any activity, any research activity together, for example, with your lecturer later on. And to investigate restricted sets of language data scientifically. Then later on, a little bit, we would like to talk about data. Textbooks is available here. So if you go back to the home later on and you click on the textbook, then the link, the PDF link is available once you clicked on the names of this. Actually, later on, I'll show that to you. So this is in general, yeah, the activity. I just make a template like this, but later on, I'll try to figure out some activities that I can do together with this. So linguistics and the origin of language, that's the first 2 weeks. The sounds and the sound patterns of language, about another 2 weeks. Word formation, another 2 weeks. The structure of language, that's gonna be another 2 weeks. So I think after this, after week 6, yeah, is it week 6 or week 8? So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we would like to finish the material at least, yeah, up to the structure of language, and then later on we'll conduct midterm tests. I will tell you, our midterm test will be, I don't know whether you got this experience before. Midterm tests will be easy. I will give you opportunity to construct a question, yeah, and provide the answers all together. So from now on, actually you need to pay attention on what aspect, what critical aspect that you would like to do in order to construct the questions and provide the answers. Again, how will I mark your grade? Because when you construct a sentence and then provide the answers, especially for in-depth analysis or in-depth discussion, then it shows your, what you call that, level of competence, levels of knowledge with this context. I do not expect you to remember all the terms, but actually the logic, how will you try to explain the phenomena of these topics actually related to the origins of language, and then the sounds and sound patterns, word formation, yeah, and then the structure of language itself. Okay, and the second half actually we talked about word meaning and lexical bundles, like lexical chunks we call that. And we talked about language and context. We talked about language history and change, and language variations and culture. So that's going to be the next one. But for the final project, I would like you to work in a group of 2 or 3 actually to design a part of analysis. So this is a kind of like a basic or first part of doing a research actually. Then you present that in a video. Of course, then you can, for example, make an analysis related to, I don't know, which part that you are interested in. If you are interested about language and culture and language and context, then you can talk about that a lot. If you are interested with the structure of language, then you can also talk about that. Or if you're interested like me, you want to discuss a lot about lexical, word meaning, lexical bundles, yes, you can also talk about this. Yeah. So this is actually the space for you later on to, again, be creative in conducting what you call it, mini research that you are presenting in a YouTube form in a video. So that's going to be the final. So this is the grading actually. Your attendance and participants will be considered 10% altogether. Once again, I do not force you to attend all the sessions, but make sure that you attend the class minimum 75% of the requirement. So because that's going to be important for you to accomplish the work. Yeah. Reflection. I almost every after a class, I would like you to write down reflections of what you already learned, what you call it, for example, trigger you to think more related to the phenomena or the concepts that we learn in class. Yeah. And group works, of course, midterm project or midterm evaluations and final term project. So again, quizzes, this is only 15 minutes. I hope then everyone will be ready for the quiz. I would like to allow you to do the quiz one time, and then it's about 15 minutes. It could be before the class or it could be after the class. We'll check that later on. So that's the quiz. Then yeah, reflection, group work. If you can see reflection once again, um, thinking about what you, why you do that, and thinking about it works and parts of the process of self-observation and self-evaluations related to what you learn. Okay, group work as usual. Then yeah, I mean that I hope that you can also help have benefits by. And final term, as I said to you, yeah, assign group work, group of 3 or 2, up to you later on, in order to conduct and pick one topic. So from now on, you can have looked on this then. Okay, so that's the core syllabus. Any questions on this? If you have questions later on, then you can let me know. Okay, let me go back to the next one. This is the home. The next information that you can see is the textbook, as I told you. Textbook, I provided the link already. So again, uh, so if you click on this, it will direct you to the PDF of the book. Now, this is my food of thought actually for any class that I teach actually. Um, I do not expect you to just copy and paste whatever sources or theory that you get from the book. But I really appreciate if you could share your opinion. Besides synthesizing that, and also share your opinion will be very good. Yeah, and also you can questions. For example, there are some theories. This is actually the reasons why we need to study linguistics. We can also question what people already, what you call that, design or decided as a part of their theory or big theory in the past, and try to, what you call that, like we need to review that, have a look in general whether is it still appropriate or probably there are some changes, then we can have a look on that. So basically I will be very open with any discussion, debate or presentations, yeah, of what any thought that you think about the process. I mean that in terms of the learning itself. Yeah. So that's the textbook. The rest, I think, all information that you can access basically from the canvas. And I try to make it as simple as possible, as easy as possible for you to access and then have a look on that. Now let's go to the module at the moment. Okay, so this is for probably the first 2 weeks or the first week or the first 2 weeks. Actually, we can have a look on this then, yeah. And what is language? This is a simple video. I want you to have a look a little bit on that. Yeah, it's a short video about what is language and defining language or languages. Okay, I want you to have a look on this.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Here's a friend of mine. She doesn't talk a lot, but when she does, it's usually about something interesting, so you better pay attention. This kind of suspicious character over here is listening in. Now he can make out what she's saying, and he gets it. And when she notices this lurker and turns around to chastise him, he knows exactly what she's saying. Freeze. This is an example of language in action. But what makes this language? Both of them are able to speak to and understand each other using their mouths, ears, and brains. That ability gets called language, and it's at the heart of a ton of things worth learning about humans, about communication, about science, philosophy, logic, and much more. They're using that general ability called language, but they're also using a specific language. They're speaking and hearing English. But we don't think that this language over here, English, is the same thing as this ability to speak and understand over here. After all, they could be speaking French or Swahili and still be using language. So what is it that sets language apart from all these languages? The characteristics of our human language ability are the subject of intense debates, and here are some of the questions that get the brawl started. Is our ability to speak something we learned or something we inherited? Does it fit snugly in a wider context alongside body signals, emotions, or other social behaviors and even animal communication? Or does human language sit way up here, all distinct and elevated like? And how does language relate to thinking, like the kind of everyday thinking we do when we have a specific thought, like those flowers are really, really red? And also the abstract thinking we do in logic and mathematics. Logic and math allow us humans to think about things more abstractly and universally. Instead of just those roses, I can think about all roses, or all x's, or even just the variable x. So it looks like language is a tricky concept. But what about languages? Surely they're clearer at least.
Okay, so that's something simple about language, which trigger us to think between language ability, which is not the same with language communication. Later on, I want you to get involved and write down definitions about language. But before that, I want you to go to this, what do you call it? You can open the slides also. I think I shared that already. What is language? Yeah, so this is the slides that I prepared that for you. Okay, when we talked about language, we will talk about the nature of language. Yeah, so I believe many of you speak many languages, but actually at least two languages then, yeah? Who speak more than two languages here? Anyone speak more than two languages? How many?
I
Oh,
speak
what are they,
Sundanese,
Rahel?
sir.
What are they, Rahel?
Sundanese, sir.
Oh, Sundanese,
Is that
okay.
counted?
Indonesian, English, anything else?
Little bit of Spanish.
Spanish also.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
Four.
cool, Rachel.
Asha, how many
A
languages
little.
you speak?
3 Indonesian, English, and Sundanese.
Oh,
Traditional language.
Okay, good, good. 5 languages? Anyone? No. I speak 5 languages though.
Wow,
speak
that's cool, sir.
my mother tongue, Balinese, of course. Indonesian, yes. And I lived in Jogja or in Central Java since my high school. So I speak Japanese also, right? So Japanese, also English and Japanese. Yeah, of course, because I got an opportunity to study in Japan. But well, it's really nice to be able to learn the language because later on that's related to thinking about the culture. I mean, that it's not only about how you express to say the certain words, and then you introduce or you translate the words. But what's lay behind the language itself, actually, then, and this is part of literacy, I think, because last time I remember Daisy talked about the literacy then, yeah. From language, from the what, something that you read, and you will understand more than just, for example, what the context, the word in this case, yeah, which is really good for that. Okay, then later on we will talk about linguistics also. What is linguistic? And as I mentioned before, why should we study linguistics? Yeah, okay. The first of all, this is the explanation, or of course the, what you call it, the definition of linguistic then, yeah, or language. Language, according to, I first I try to cite from Hall. This is similar to the, what you call it, the professor's, what his name, from German, who presents the always about linguistics in YouTube. You can have a look also on that later on. So he said that long time ago, 1968, language is the institution whereby human communicate. See, human communicate, which means that if you say human communicate, then we also acknowledge there another communication, which is animal communications, right? So what makes it different? So what makes it different then? Yeah, is that the same human communications and animal communications? I think that's different, yeah, because that's why we have what so-called like uh, people say the highest level of human of creature, in terms of we can use our brain, we can use our, what you call that, wisdom in this case, to not only communicate something simple, something which is related to our daily needs, but lots more than that, about culture later on. Yeah, so that's human communication, and that's also allow us to interact to each other. Yeah. So again, as for example, Rahel speaks Sundanese, Tasha speaks Sundanese, some others also speak. Felix, what local language do you speak?
Besemai, sir.
Sorry?
Besemai, Vino.
Oh, okay, okay. So then probably others than Sumatra Selatan, yeah, you have another local languages, or Javanese in this case. The things is actually we can use that, we can, what you call that, combine that, but probably it's a bit hard because each language has their own, for example, like uh, sounds or vocabulary or structure, which is different. Then how can we communicate? Luckily, we have what's so called Bahasa Indonesia, yeah, who is that is us to communicate for that. Then, so that's the things then, situations, and part of the discussions also, the language is habitually used. So we use that in our daily life, yeah. Habitually use, oral and auditory. So someone speak, and then the others you can listen. So there's a kinds of transmission happens over there, yeah. And arbitrary symbols. Arbitrary symbols is like what people agree to say so. Jadi kata meja misalkan, meja for us we call that meja, right? But others, for example, English they call that table, yeah. What else? Other languages, Spanish, what they call that? Rahel, meja. You don't know? What is that? Your voice.
I don't know, sir. I only speak a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Um, in Japanese, they call that teburu. Teburu means table, yeah. They adopt that from English. But there are another terms for that, and also someone say. So that's what we call like arbitrary symbols. So I think what people agreed of in saying so. Jadi ada kata, misalnya kucing juga kan macam-macam, ada cat, and so on. So that's part of the arbitrary symbols. But when we have the arbitrary symbols, we know the arbitrary symbols, then we can understand that. So yeah. The other definition what I see is actually from Oxford Advanced Learner Dictionary. Yeah. there are at least two definitions, also called by the system of communication in speech and writing that is used by people of a particular country or area. Yeah, so system of communication. What does it mean by system? System should be well organized and should not be conducted randomly, right? So which means that later on, when we talked about the system, there's a rule, there's a regulations, and this is what we call later on as a structure, as the grammar of the language. So that's become a system. So there's a system in speech and also in writing. Yeah. So it's not only a group of words. Yeah. You cannot say something if you just, for example, mention words. It should be in a good order. Yeah. So they call that language has a system and used by human. Now, this is the same thing then, yeah? So language, in this case, even though animal have their own way to communicate to each other, but we do not say that as a language, actually, yeah, because language should be comes from or used by human as a system related to the system of sounds that people can learn that, and also words in order to communicate that. Okay, next is actually this. I want you to write down your own definitions on this. So then I would like to use Perdec. Yeah, hang on. Let me use Perdec. Okay. So Perdec allows you to what do you call that? Communicate and also not only communicate, involve the audience at the right time. So I'm not only talking like a newscaster atau penyiar radio ngobrol sendiri, but I can involve you to together to work with me here. Yeah. So for example, with this explanation, still loading. Wait a minute. Okay. So what you have to do, you go to joinpd.com. So you can use your, I don't know, mobile phone, your tablet, or whatever is that in there. So you can write that down. Probably a bit different with your computer, or you can use your computer, but you can open another window. For that, make a smaller window, and then type down joinpd.com and enter the code WAPY3. Okay, so one student's connected already. I can see that. Two students, and later on in when you conduct your, for example, class or activities, whatever is that related to this, you can use this. Yeah, you can use perdec.com. This is very good. Yeah.
Sorry, sir. What's the code again?
This one, I think it's very clear. Can you see that? WAPY. Hang on, let me show it once again. Can you see the slides now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, okay, good. So that's joinpd.com, WAPYV, Warm Advocados Pursue Young Violence. So 10 students connected, okay. As there are 17 people, at least 16 students should get in. Okay, 13 so far. It's okay, I can start. Later on, if you still want to see the code, it's written down on my right here, yeah. WAPYV. Okay. So this point we have discussed that already before, yeah. How to connect, Divani? You type down joinpd.com. Let me write that down. Joinpd.com, and then enter the pass key. The code is WAPYV. Okay. So that's the things. And then we discussed this already. Now I want you to write down your answer. What is language for you? How will you define the language in your own words. Okay. Write down in one sentence. I think enough. You don't need to write down very long. Oh, what happened, Bifani? You cannot enter it? I think it should be okay because others find it okay though. Can you type your answers already?
Yes, sir.
Good. Good. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Ah, okay. Okay, some of you still writing on that. Very good. So all of this work will be considered as a part of your participation, yeah?
Um, how to send?
You can just type it. I think that's all. Yeah.
Can you see my answer?
Later on, we'll see that,
Really,
yeah?
which one of mine?
Sir, do we need to write our names?
You don't need to. But if you want,
Oh,
up to you want, yeah? Because
oh,
actually I can identify it. You can write down your name over there. It's also okay.
oh.
And then when you write down your own definitions, you also consider actually the difference between people with language ability and what we said before is actually language as a means of communication itself. Then. Good. So let's see then. Who said that from me, language is things about communicate and interactions among each other? Who said so?
Me, sir.
Yeah, okay, go on, Mariati.
Uh, from me, language is about that we communicate with others, and others can communicate and interaction with others, each others, and they are understand what that we think and what we share about
Okay, so you
the
underline
information.
about being, I mean, that the language that can, which is understood by people, yeah, to each other.
Yes, sir.
My small notes, actually, this is about composition, Mariati. About usually followed by noun phrase, yeah. So about communication and interaction. Okay,
Okay, okay.
very
Thank you,
good.
sir.
Who answered this one? A medium, language is a medium that helps humans interact and understand one another. Language can be in the form of symbol, traffic sign, gesture, and even facial expression. Oh, go on, Rahel.
I think the main keyword is meaning. As long as people get the meaning, that is language. And I think language can be not only like person to person, but like like for example the symbol, it's like a thing. Uh, for example, like traffic sign, it's not from human, right? But it transfers the meaning, the language to the person, so they can
So
understand.
symbol is actually part of what I called as arbitrary symbols before then. Yeah, I mean that what people agreed of. Say for example, if you got a picture with the letter S, but there's a cross or there's a line diagonally, means that you are not allowed to stop in this case, for example. But that becomes like what common practice, and then it's not only being used in our country but all over the world. And yeah, so parts of the what do you call that? Arbitrary symbol. Very good. So gesture, definitely, that's parts of non-verbal language. Yeah, and facial expression. Very good. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Rahel, in terms of sentence writing, a little bit. I think you can put semicolon here because this is two different sentences. Okay.
Oh yeah. Thank you,
That
sir.
helps human to interact and to understand each other. Okay, good. So again, this is what I meant by many times I mentioned that as a deliberate learning. Yeah. So sometimes when you write down something, don't make it fossilized, but try to think again how to construct the sentence, how to write sentence a bit more properly, because again, you're candidates of lecture or teacher that you should be able to express that in a better way. The next one, language is a way for people to communicate with each other. Who said this? Language is a way for
Me,
people to
sir.
communicate. Yes, go on. Yala.
So for me, language is a way how to tell people what we want to talk, what we want them to know, and it can be by mood or gesture.
I think your keywords here is to communicate, right, Tiara? So
Yes,
language is a way people to
to
communicate to
tell
each other.
each other, share
Yeah,
and
yeah, sure. Okay, good. So again, in terms of writing, I try to, well, I mean that uh, remind you to use semicolon here because this is two different sentences then, yeah?
okay, sir.
Okay, then Rani, a term for communications tools is also agreed by many people to understand each other. Communication tools. Go on, Rani.
I mean, like, uh, the way we speak, I mean, the way we communicate, and this is like become perantara.
Mm, yeah.
So I thought that the language is
Transmission, we
the
call it.
tool.
Yes. Yeah.
What is it? I think.
Okay. So language is the kinds of transmissions. You mean like a tools, yeah, for communications, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Agreed by people. Yeah. Again, that's part of the arbitrary then, yeah. But the question is part of our discussions. Is it possible that a language change? Then there will be another one topic that we would like to discuss later on about language change. Yeah, is it possible for that? Now, the next one, language is a method of human communication in order to deliver your thought, feelings, whether it's verbal and non-verbal. Who said this?
It's mine.
Yes, Cindy, go on.
Um, since language is not only about speaking, sometimes you can deliver what you're feeling towards, again, what Rachel said, facial expression or body language. It could really show what you're feeling and what you're thinking about. That's why sometimes people can read your mind. It's just basically from your
Sure, sure.
nonverbal ways of communication.
And to some extent, people believe that non-verbal languages is even bigger, is more influencing rather than verbal language, yeah, because there are lots of non-verbal languages that is not really well communicated to some extent because people need to be aware of with these situations then. Yeah, very good. Verbal and non-verbal. A language is a tool for communication, for communicating with each other. Oh, simple. Who said this?
Me, sir.
Yes, Nadila. What kinds of tool do you think here then?
Um, I think um, everything. I think everything that we use, such as symbol or picture, that's a language that we use to deliver our thought.
So that's the thing, then. Yeah, this is more. Is I think better to say so then. Yeah, it's not just merely a tool for communicating, but again, you use all aspects that people can see, that people can feel, that people can hear in order to deliver your thought. Yeah, this is interesting. Okay, then a tool to communicate or a method to express or of expressing thought, emotion, feelings. Yeah, Felix, what do you think here?
Yes, I think for us to be able to, for people to be able to understand us and because we're communicating is like dua arah, right, sir? Like if we can easily expressing our thoughts and make sure people understand what we're talking about. I think that is called communication and language, and there where the language exists.
Yeah, so again, you try to underline that the language could be used to communicate then, yeah? So expressing emotion, feeling, and thought, yeah? Okay, very good. The next one, language is a sign of human, a sign of human to communicate. Who said so?
It's me, sir.
Go on, Clarissa.
Yeah, I think language is a way or sign of human to communicate with other people about their thought, feelings, or opinion, whether using by speaking or what is it, picture or anything else they can do to other people. Yeah.
See, yeah, very good. So sign, but again, be careful with the term sign of human, because again, sign probably part of the language itself, yeah. But later on, then you can, well, I mean, use that sign as what you call it, as a point for people to communicate or saying or sharing their thought and feeling here. Next is language is a culture. This is interesting. Yeah, language is cultures, rules used by society or people to communicate. Who said so?
Me, sir.
Yes, go on, Sienna. What do you think?
I think language is a culture because the language represent the speaker.
Represents the speakers?
Like they are the one of the culture.
So language is a cultures and rules. I kind of like you mentioned language is part of culture, but to some extent that language has what you call it, its role in terms of the culture itself. I think that's something that you need to have a look on this. Yeah. So parts of the culture. So probably you can say that language is a kind of, well, I mean, it is a tool for culture sharing in this case. And yeah, with the language, then people can understand someone's culture better in this case. Okay, a tool for human to communicate. It's very simple. Who said so?
Me, sir. Priscilla.
Okay, what is? Yes, go on, Priscilla. What kinds of communication do you mean here?
Everyday communication.
Oh, that's what we call
Yeah.
the habitual communications before then, yeah? So
Yes.
daily communication. Yeah. Yes. Is there something interesting from daily communication?
I don't know. I think it's, I don't know, sir. But I think in order to communicate, language is essentials, because if people with different language tend to not understand each other like that.
I don't know. Have I shared you? This is another culture, yeah. When I was in Japan, um, salaryman. Do you know salaryman? Pernah tahu apa itu salaryman?
No, sir.
So
What is it?
salaryman is what do you call that? People who started to work, who get, well, for example, once you graduate and you started to get a job and you become salaryman. So you work, and then later on, once you work, and then later on you commit to marry someone and become a couple, and then because for salaryman, for them, but at the moment it's reducing. Yeah, it's not gonna be very strong like that. In the past, what do you call that? Their work or their colleagues will be number one rather than family. What I mean is actually, after working hours, 5 o'clock, they will not go directly to go home. Yeah, they will stay hanging around with their friends. They have dinner together. After dinner, they will have what? For Nijikai, Sanjikai, and karaoke, everything, and until like late at night, until about 12, 1 o'clock, or even very, very late. Now, once I used to write down in Kompas, long time, 2009, about this culture, about budaya minum di Jepang. If you type down, for example, you can get that from Kompas, yeah, budaya minum di Jepang. The things is actually what I would like to say over there. The culture of drinking together in Japan is not just merely to get drunk, but they would like to build a bound together group as a part of a team. Yeah? And for Japanese people, being a knowledge, being part of a team will be very important. Yeah. What I would like to say is not about this culture. What I want to say is about what they do once they get home. And there are three words they always say that to their wife. Number one, Messi. Messi is not Messi, the footballer, yeah. Messi means eat. Messi means to eat. I want to eat. After after they eat, what else? Furo. I want to take a bath. Furo. And the third one is Neru. Neru means to sleep.
Sleeping.
So
Yep.
Messi, Furo, Neru. That's very unique then, yeah. And because of this culture happens again and again. And one situations when this is the story then, yeah, when many of them retired, and retirement in Japan, they got lots of money, and usually after retired they plan to go abroad, have a holiday with well, I mean that their couples, yeah, I mean that their wife mostly. And what happened? Once they got a job, when husbands, they are very busy with their own job, with their colleagues and so on, and wives also have their own activities. So after taking care of their children, usually they will go to group, we call that, to play mahjong and do this one, to do this one. And once they go abroad, they meet together. There are many surprising fact, culture, that they don't know each other, and that makes them like someone different. Lots of difference like this make them, until once they get back to Tokyo, they call that, I think some of you've been stopped in Narita um, airport. They call that wakare kuko. Wakare means like to separate. So airport to separate. So because of the difference they have during their life, and then once they get abroad, spend their time to, well, I mean, for holiday, lots of things they think, why my wife is so different, why my husband is so different. And finally, because of they got lots of quarreling, and they finally decided to separate. So once they get back in Japan, and they said, we divorce. Wakari kuko. But the issue is actually, when we talked about language, about communications, especially about daily communications, then, yeah. So what kinds of daily communications that makes people to understand each other? If you just talked about that simple words, well, I know, I mean, that your wife, your husband, your couple probably understand that, but that's not enough. There are many things actually lay behind that. So that's really interesting. I know that at the moment this culture not really happen because um, what you call that husband, they started to not stay very late actually with their colleagues, but they go home, take care of their family, talk to their husband and wife, and mostly during weekends, especially Saturday, they will spend time together also to go somewhere, eat out, and probably this culture is getting, it's changing. And this is also influence certain language is changing in this case then. Yeah, good. The next one, someone said that language is the things we use to communicate. We have like about, okay, 10 minutes to go, yeah, okay, for this class. So language is things that we use to communicate. Who said this?
Me, sir, Loli.
Okay, Lolly, go on, Lolly.
For me, language is the things we use for communicate. Like, we say something to another with language, language that we understand each other. so that the message is delivered.
So the key words, can I say that, to understand each other? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, but the question is, for example, what about the language that you don't really know? For example, with can you speak Russian? If you meet people speak Russian, can you understand each other? If
Uh,
not, and what's wrong with the language? Even though you have a language, Russian people has their own language.
no, sir. If we don't understand the language, we try another way to speak, but it's still in language. If
I
it's
see.
not,
So there will
uh,
be another way. So this is gesture in this
yes,
case, yeah, help you to communicate for this then.
yes.
Okay.
The point is, the message is delivered.
Oh, okay, the message is delivered. Yeah. So, okay, good. Okay, a tool for communicating. Who said this? Something similar. But I really want
Me,
you
sir.
to elaborate that, as I want to know actually what do you mean by this. And go on. Who said so?
Karin, sir.
Yeah, go on. Arin.
I think this is the tool for communicating, like, for example, people in the community. So, for example, like, in Palembang, people talk in Palembang language. So, if
Gak usah
really
lihat nanti aja. Kamu tadi ngerjain tugas
they
apa
have
aja?
their own. Excuse me.
Go on.
Is
Yeah.
that okay? I
Yes, go on.
continue. So, for example, what is interesting actually from this tool, like for example in daily, when people language, for example, like in Palembang, if we want to talk like on a situation, so we call it as oh kacip kayak gitu. So it is actually only understand by Palembang people.
So
Like that.
there's a
So
kind of,
another community don't understand about that. Yeah. So maybe it also includes culture, like
yeah.
previous one.
This is what we call
Yeah.
by local language that probably
Yeah.
a certain group of people can understand. This is also part of our discussions later on, and part of our objective on uh, the way, why do we need to learn language or linguistics in this case. I would like to read Fanny's what you call a definition. Language is a forms of communication in order to interact and understand others. It is used to ask and express certain feelings, moods, ideas, information, and experience. Okay, I think this covers lots of issues here. Thank you. The things is, yeah, that's the things. I really appreciate you come up with several thought of language. Again, then by knowing the language, then you can understand actually what's lay behind the language itself. Now, a little bit before we finish, we would like to talk about linguistics. Yeah, linguistic is, to some extent, we can say that scientific study of language. Yeah, we study that scientific, the language in scientific way. What are they? At least there are three main big issues we can cover. Number one is about the sound. The second one is about the structure, and the third one is about the meaning. When we talked about sound, there's a phonetic sound, yeah, phonetic like the sounds of L, K, yeah. I don't know, in Indonesia we have perbedaan suara E dan in this case, then yeah, so which is unique, yeah. Uh, and then that's about phonetics. And then in terms of phonology, we also try to differentiate. In English, we learn the difference between the word bad and bed. What's the difference? I slept on my bed. He's a bad person. Sound and eh. This one is actually we would like to learn in phonology. Now we talked about, when we talked about morphology, we learn about the word, what do you call it, constructions of the word. For example, the word naturalization. Yeah, naturalizations come from the word nature with the suffix al, also another suffix "ice" and Asian. So naturalization. So that's kinds of analysis actually that you can do when you pay attention on the morphology. In terms of syntax, have you learned or have you heard the very famous, what do you call that, like a word from Noam Chomsky? He said that colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Colorless green, sorry, green, yeah, not green, yeah, green ideas sleep furiously. In terms of structure, is that correct or not? That's correct, yeah, but meaningless, yeah. So that's the thing then. To some extent, people can write down what you call that, lots of sentences, structurally correct, but hang on, is that meaningful or not? So then actually this is the things we would like to discuss. We would like to analyze that through syntax, yeah. In terms of meanings, we have what's so called by semantics and pragmatic. In terms of semantics, we would like to see the relationship between, for example, wide and narrow. What kinds of relationship do they have? Yeah, that's the opposite, for example, then, yeah. Also related to rose and flowers, yeah. So which one is higher, flower or rose? Flower, yeah, flower. And then there are several types of flowers. In this case, one of them is rose or tulip and so on, yeah. So that kinds of relations we learn in semantics. In terms of pragmatics, probably in the sentence, the context that you can understand the sentence. For example, when you write down, I will come to your party. I will come to your party is two things, yeah. I will come to your party, that's a promise for me that I will come there. But some people say, I will come to your party. Oh, I probably warn you. I will probably remind you that I will, for example, like disturb your happiness and so on. Yeah, so that depends on the context, and we can also understand this from this pattern. So that's what do you call it, linguistics. And then the other one, we would like to see also why do you need to study a language. Number one, we want to know about language awareness. Yeah. So again, like Arin mentioned, what was the word, Arin? Takechip. Takechip. Okay. So that's what we call something which is regional. Yeah. What is that? Takechip, right? Take a chip or take a chip. Or take a chip. Take a chip. Okay. So something which is about regional. But for example, when you talk to siapa yang from outside of Sumatra, with Rahel misalnya, then you cannot say so, right? Because you will sure that Rahel will not understand actually this word. So this one related to language awareness. So we need to understand which word, which language, which part of the language of the language is considered colloquial, regional, and which one is the standard. Yeah. Even though when you use lu, gua, depends on the context then on that. Yeah. Speech therapy, for example, if someone got problems with the language impaired, who will they ask? Of course, those who know about the language. And who are they? Us. Yeah, I mean, and you are the candidates of teachers. You are also the one who paid attention on the language. Then you will learn about the language. Computers and linguistics. Not all of the computers, even though at the moment it's getting sophisticated, it's better and better, are the same, like what people say. So Google Translator, Corpus Linguistic, Turnitin, they are all what do you call, machines or computers in this case then, yeah. But not all of them probably exactly deliver what people pay attention. In terms of, that's why when you work with the Turnitin, for example, then I will not directly in composition, yeah, this is what I share then. I will not directly give you a big zero because I found you, for example, copied lots of topics from other sources, but I will give you opportunity to revise them again. That because learning is different. It's not about we decided that through the machine, and yeah, and not all of that actually could be identified from the machine. Language acquisitions also, the way you learn them. For example, how someone's, and then probably some of you will take this class also later on with me, how someone's learn a language from the baby when they were born, actually, and then also when adults learn the language as a second language learner. Yeah. Language and literature, is there any different, as I said to you, from the language in the past and at the moment? Is there any changes? Is there any things that people say differently? Then probably we can identify that. And language teaching, as a candidate of teacher, definitely we need to have look the way, that how to teach the language, and to know that actually someone need to know about the structure also and several aspects of learning a language. Okay, this is some main topics that you can have a look on from the key points on what we are discussing. But I want you, this is for next meeting, to watch this video and share your ideas, what you understood about linguistics. Just now we talked about language, and now linguistics. Yeah, so linguistics, and then later on I want you to share that here. But just be prepared. You do not need to write anything in the at home. Yeah, just be prepared, and then in the class later on I'll give you time to write down your mind map. The other one, this is all the key points. So not next week, yeah, still this week actually. We would like to have a look, and you can also have looked on these readings, parts of the materials beside the one that I shared with you in the textbooks. And there's a what you call it, a TED talk about how language shapes the way we think. Yeah, that's also something that you need to have a look for next week. Oh, sorry, for next meeting. And I want you to write down a reflection how language shapes the way we think. Any questions?
I think
No.
no,
Okay.
sir.
Very good. So I'll take your attendance. Then we can stop the class, and I'll see you again on Wednesday. Yeah. So thank you very much. Bye bye.
Okay.